You just want to add a new feature to your website, but you don't want to go the custom route because it seems so complicated and expensive. But on the other hand, finding an app that's guaranteed to accomplish 50% of what you really need it to do just doesn't seem like a good approach either. We've all heard the horror stories. For example, one of our clients, before they started working with SwiftOtter, paid a significant amount of money to build a custom discount feature that turned out to be already included in the platform. True story. Or another merchant who paid in their agency to add a control to the category list page, only to find out that the result was hard-coded into one category page. Another true story. This, my friends, is the #1 reason that agencies get a bad rap. And so in this video, the first of two, I will show you how to DIY those features yourself with a little help from your AI assistant, our good friend, ChatGPT. Your wallet will thank me later.
You smell that? What is that?
What?
What's that smell?
Opportunity.
No, money.
So are you ready? Let's jump into episode 22 of the eCom Buzz, where I will walk you through identifying solutions for a super common feature. Notify me when back in stock. In other words, when a product goes out of stock, allowing customers to sign up for an email saying the product is back available for sale. By the way, if you haven't already signed up for these bi-weekly emails in this eCom Buzz format, I'd love to indulge you. You will be grateful you signed up. The link is in the comments below. Before we do any research, installation, or coding, what do we need to solve? What actually means success? We're first going to identify our problem to solve or the goal to achieve. For example, we want to provide a back in stock notification. The problem is we bring a widget back into stock, we receive it into inventory, but let's say our customers really want to know about it. It's a hot commodity item. And how are they going to know about this if this product just silently returns to stock? So let's ask the question, what's the opportunity? I want to be really clear here as I put out some numbers. These are fake numbers and don't represent anything or any knowledge from any of our clients. So let's look at the numbers this way. If we sell 25 of a popular widget, maybe we have a 10% net profit margin and our price is $150. Well, that would be $375 net profit for this feature for one in-stock return of this product. Now, we can extrapolate that out across the board, and that's looking really good. We now have a foundation for ROI here. Whether it's an app in the form of a monthly cost, or it is a custom feature where it is a big upfront cost and then some maintenance to go alongside that, we now have this baseline to understand what value this will bring, so we can determine the appropriate costs or the appropriate investment that will be offset by this return on investment. Our goal in this case is to improve revenue and customer happiness by making in-stock arrivals more visible. We have a goal that's well-defined. So now we need to move to the next question. What do I need it to do? And we need to be specific here. For this back in stock notification, I'd say we first need a box that appears on an out of stock product saying, notify me when back in stock. But we also need an email field in this box. Ideally, it needs to be an email address entry type, especially tuned for mobile devices. We need to send an email when inventory is received, and it doesn't end there. There's lots of questions we need to think about as well. For example, how many customers do we think will sign up? Because that's going to affect what type of load to expect when actually sending or processing these emails. It might not be as important for an app, but custom development, it becomes very relevant there. But there's more to consider than just these fundamental points. What about if they've entered their email, perhaps on other pages, it's just a matter of clicking a checkbox to sign up or be notified for back in stock items? Yeah, that's nice. What about, and marketing's gonna love this, what about integrating this into your marketing email system? This is simple, right? Wrong. There's actually a lot more to discuss. Let's talk about this. What about the admin side? What about the customer notifications? So on the admin side, do we need a form in the admin panel that shows each email address and the selected product that they wish to be notified for? What about a place to manage the email templates that are sent to the customer? What about the ability to email customers who have subscribed to notifications for a specific product? Like, hey, this is taking longer to get back in stock than we originally thought. And of course, the system needs to notify customers when the stock is received. That's of course a basic, but should there be a delay in case inventory is erroneously received into the system? The customer must also have a way to unsubscribe from these emails. Let's say they're really passionate about these widgets and then they kind of move on in life, and well, they probably would want to unsubscribe eventually. So once these are written down, we want to prioritize them. Adding a checkbox to other pages is convenient for customers, but it's a lower priority, right? People can re-enter their email address. It's not the end of the world. As is the ability to see a list of emails subscribed to a product. This is super helpful, and it might even be in the category of critical, but is it actually 100% necessary to start with? Yeah, probably not. But the product page email entry and the actual email sent to those customers when the stock was received, those are critical priorities. Let's back up. You might be asking, Joseph, how did you come up with all of these ideas? I'll say experience, and I will caveat that as well. This is an abbreviated list. I want to be respectful of your time in this video. It's not a comprehensive video about how to build a out-of-stock notification system. We're walking through the process. You might not have this 15 to 20 years of experience, so I'm going to give you a secret that will help you make these determinations yourself. ChatGPT. So you want to ask this system, what are best practices and common pitfalls when implementing a notify me when back in stock feature in Magento, Shopify, BigCommerce, whatever the platform is. And then you add on, I'm thinking about technical, UX, and marketing angles. If you want to short circuit the risk involved with learning, we at SwiftOtter can help. Our solutions consultants ask you these questions based off of their years of experience and maybe a little ChatGPT thrown in there once in a while. However, this video is about DIY, so let's get back to the real questions here. You probably don't want to know the most painfully obvious question ever, but I still have to ask. Is this feature already present in your e-commerce platform? So how about we ask this of ChatGPT? And in a simple phrase, does this feature exist natively in Shopify? And if you already asked the question previously about this back in stock notification, just follow it up with a prompt and it'll know exactly what you're talking about. You're gonna get an answer. ChatGPT works great. You can do a Google search as well. ChatGPT is not infallible, but it still is pretty accurate. But I think the better question to ask, and this is a little bit harder on the ChatGPT side, is does this do what I need? So you can put in the prompt your own critical requirements and it will help you identify if it checks the boxes, but you still want to do your own research on top of that. If this app that we are starting with checks the boxes, then you want to start with an app. But the better question to ask is, does this e-commerce platform that I'm using implement this feature in the way that I need it to implement? And that, of course, totally depends on your critical requirements. If it checks the boxes, start here. It's free, it's included in the subscription pricing you're already paying, and it has minimal effort to get going. If it doesn't, you might need to move on. But again, I would suggest evaluating, is the critical items on your list truly critical? Remember, moving on does mean a higher level of overhead. You're going to either have an app cost or upfront development costs. And utilizing what's already in your system, your platform available to you, is a really good strategy. So we have to identify if moving on is actually worth the cost. It is a cost-benefit analysis. But the final question we do need to ask in this conversation today is, assuming we cannot implement this with our current e-commerce system, it's not available out of the box, is this. Is it already available as an app or module? Well, just ask this to ChatGPT. Ask it, what Shopify or BigCommerce or Magento apps, whatever platform, solve this problem? And it will provide some recommendations. It usually has some great suggestions. For example, it understands Klaviyo's offerings well enough that it will tell you that Klaviyo can implement a back in stock notification system to an extent. Well, you're better leveraging your Klaviyo expenditures by utilizing this type of a system. And that's a huge win. So once we have a list of apps that we've identified, whether ChatGPT, Google search, or just typing in your phrase into the App Store, there's some more questions that we need to ask. First, I do recommend using Google Lighthouse to get the metrics on your website, the performance metrics, before you start doing anything. You got to get a baseline. We don't want to install anything that's going to dramatically affect the performance of your website. So, second question is, what is the effort to install and configure this app? If it's easy and has a trial period, that's ideal. Just do it, test it out. If it doesn't have a trial period, it's still probably worth it to install it, pay the $40 a month, get installed, try it out in a sandbox. And I think that's a critical thing to remember. We don't want to be just throwing apps out there, even on a production instance, even on Shopify. But once installed, we want to then rerun the Lighthouse metrics to see, well, we have our baseline, and does it affect now the performance? We also want to evaluate the user interface. Remember, the only problem with apps is we don't get the control over them that we would like. However, they're usually cheap to start with, they're cheap to run with, and so it's a great proof of concept. Another thing to consider is apps are often isolated. So does this app need to work with other pieces of my e-commerce ecosystem? And finally, if some features are missing, which I can almost guarantee they will be based off of how you envision this feature being implemented, we want to decide if this is going to be a good, cheap proof of concept. Consider it perhaps a temporary solution. In my experience, usually temporary solutions are lasting longer than a temporary solution should, but it works, and no solution is ever going to be perfect. The ideal part of this is you get to see what you like, what you don't like, and that's going to actually shape then your requirements for a custom implementation of this feature. So those are the 3 questions we're going to be asking here in this conversation. In our next conversation, we'll be moving from app to then custom. Sometimes this is warranted, but sometimes it is not necessary. The thing is, the process to move from app to custom will either make or break your happiness. I built a flowchart that documents how we review all of these components. As far as a decision tree, link is in the comments below. I hope you find that helpful. And finally, to wrap this up, if you would like a team to have your back as you review these apps and evaluate new features, and you want to prevent your website from becoming a digital equivalent of a house with 17 unnecessary additions, that's us. We have a super affordable getting started block of hours where we'll just knock anything out that you need. Well, website related, of course. If you have any further questions, I'm just an email away, joseph@swiftotter.com, and it would be my pleasure to be able to help you in this conversation about app or custom or native e-commerce capabilities.